Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be diving into the past and looking at 8 overpowered cards that only some of you OG Hearthstone players will remember, but maybe some of you guys might not actually want to remember because these cards did cause a lot of headaches. Now, some of these cards were truly iconic and the power that they held at their respective times were literally insane. Probably even close to simply game breaking, and it's sometimes really amazing to imagine how they once existed in their state. Now for all of these cards, I'll actually be playing some footage to really express my points and showcase the power that they had. As always, all the info, research, and footage used will be credited fully in the description below, so make sure to check them out if you guys would like to view or read more. Anyways, with all that being said, let's actually jump straight into the list. So at number 8 we have pre-reworked Unleash the Hounds, and oh boy, now this card was utterly crazy back in the day, and you'd be playing a bunch of 1-mana beasts such as Young Dragonhawk with Snake Trap and buff them up with stuff like Direwolf, and this made it possible to turn 4 to 5 OTK from literally nothing. This would allow you to often win on turn 6 or 7 pretty easily. I mean, if you're lucky enough for a perfect turn, you could OTK from 30 HP on turn 4 or even 5. It was really insane, and here you can see it in this example. We can see 34 damage hitting like a rock on turn 5. Pretty crazy stuff. However, moving forward from that, we have number 7, and that would be the pre-nerf 2-mana Starving Buzzard. So this card actually had versions in which it was a 2-2, then later nerfed to a 2-1, then Unleash the Hounds was changed. However, before Unleash got changed, it was insanely OP at 2-2. It simply gave this hyper-aggressive deck a crazy draw engine, and man, it used it pretty aggressively. This was a crucial indicator that made it so broken. Usually the number one weakness against an aggro deck is the lack of ability to draw cards, and this one simply didn't have it. After Unleash got changed, it became possibly the best card in the entire game at the time. This was because it was a 4-mana 2-card combo and could draw up to 6 cards and deal damage or kill minions, and just made Hunter super strong. It caused Blizzard to quite literally obliterate it in the next round of nerfs, and man, did it get hit hard. Following that up, we move on to the 6th card on the list, which would be the 2-mana discount Pin-Sized Summoner. Now, for anyone who doesn't really remember, they'd probably go ahead and comment about how trash this card is right now, but way back in the beta of Hearthstone, the story was just a little bit different. So actually, it reduced the cost of the first minion played by 2 mana, and back then there was less instant removal in the game altogether. This meant that if this thing lived for 1 turn, you would legit just run away with the game. It was essentially like having a free innervate every turn that would just snowball into a huge board advantage altogether. You'd gain the control and there was no stopping you then. This card could single-handedly win you the game back in the day as long as it lived for a single turn, and quite often we'd see crazy openers like coin into Pin-Sized into play a Yeti on turn 2. I mean, seriously? How do you even come back from a play like that? Especially if it's being followed up by strong minions literally every single turn again and again. You simply don't have the mana to deal with it, and ultimately you'd have no board control by the end, and that would eventually cause you to just lose. Anyways, moving from that, we have number 5, and that would be our 8-mana Mind Control. And this was something. Back in the day, this card was the terror of the game, and it really was. It was literally something that everyone feared. They didn't want to face this at all. It made priests so incredibly frustrating and annoying to play against, it was insane. Mind Control at 8 mana just made it way too efficient and powerful. You were able to play it so easily into basically any game. This card pretty much made it so that minions that costed more than 5 or 6 mana became useless. It's because they were essentially unplayable, and even if some were okay, they just didn't do enough to fight back against the strength of this Mind Control card and what it brought to the table. This was actually because the game was a lot slower at the time, and decks were also less powerful. The lower cost of this card combined with the larger swing made it extremely effective in all scenarios. However, more so than anything else, it was just so damn annoying to deal with and very anti-fun to play against. Man, any OG players that are really remembering this card right now probably don't actually want to remember these times. I mean, prior to patch 1.0.0.4 at 217, this card was the most infamous in the entire game. Debates spawned left and right about if it was even fair or not, and it could utterly just win you the game consistently. Its mana was increased from 8 to 10 in an attempt to balance it. At one point, Blizzard themselves were quoted saying that its nerf wasn't actually about if it was OP or not, but rather how annoying it was to play against altogether. Now, you guys can take that how you will. That's enough about that card. In the end, those are past times, and it no longer exists in the state it used to, thankfully. Now on to number 4, we have a 1-2 Novice Engineer, and the thing is back when this card was a 1-2, the game was a lot slower, like we mentioned above, and it also had less of a power creep. This resulted in Novice Engineer becoming the most consistent ultimate draw card. I mean, to put it into perspective, it was pretty much in 95% of decks, and was a strong staple for every single card type back in the day. It wasn't really tied to anything. Being able to draw instantly and have a decent board presence was not something to be really taken lightly, and in turn everyone was abusing it. Not to mention that back then there was a huge relevance of a 3-3 Shattered Sun Clerk and a 3-3 Defender of Argus. It gave you a great minion to buff up on the following turns, all while keeping your hand full and giving you tons of options. On to number 3, we have the insanely overpowered Blood Imp that gave all minions +1 HP. This card was actually insane, and it particularly made Murloc Warlock so overpowered, it's almost unexplainable. Almost. It was a strong option for zoo decks at the time and just allowed for insane early game snowballing, amassing massive minion HP, and gave your Murlocs just the slight edge they needed to survive the board clears. This made them unstoppable, almost like building this mini army to trample over your enemies. At number 2, we have the original Nat Pagle. Able to draw at the end of the turn, this card at the time was actually an amazing card and a very strong staple. Back in a meta filled with tons of buff cards like Shattered Sun Clerk and Defender of Argus, Nat Pagle was just the perfect buff target to reap the insane benefits of the meta. In turn, it allowed you to snowball away with the game, often replacing itself on turn 1, and since it had 4 HP, it was a little tricky for your opponent to kill. Most low mana spells couldn't kill it off by themselves, and so it would often end up drawing 2 to 3 or 4 cards over its lifespan. Honestly, what really made it overpowered was its raw consistency and strong reliability. At the time, it was being played in pretty much every deck of the game and had a strong board presence altogether because of the 4 HP. Notoriously, this card at the time, paired with Tinkmaster Overspark, were so overpowered they were actually collectively banned from all tournaments, just to put you guys into perspective of how strong they were. Blizzard hated the fact that this had to happen, and since they really disliked the idea that cards would get actually banned from tournaments, it caused really huge controversy when Blizzard actually started forcing third-party tournaments to unban all the cards. However, it was apparent how strong the card was, and it was ultimately nerfed to the ground. And that's the key thing to really notice with all these cards, is they really do have a high peak of game-breaking powerness, but when they get nerfed, they don't get nerfed to a balanced state. It's like if they had a long lifespan of being overpowered, it's like the solution is to now have a long lifespan of being useless. There's usually not a middle, especially in general when games buff and nerf things. Not too sure why there's no middle, but anyways, that's for another topic. Moving on to our final card at number 1, we have Zero Managed Charge, and this card allowed you to set up combos with Warrior where you could equip a Gore Howl and next turn play Alexstrasza and charge for the instant kill. It was especially insane with Alexstrasza with removed armor at the time, and to top it all off, it actually made it into the Molten Giant OTK combo deck. This ended up enabling it to do a ton of other crazy things with the cards and combos. This went on for a little while actually, as we all cried. However, Blizzard realized that charge as a whole was an awful mechanic and dealt clean with it, and the issue is now gone. Anyways, that just about sums up the list for today. What notoriously overpowered cards do you guys remember? Any you particularly hated playing against, or were you guys one of those players who abused them to victory? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, let me know what I could improve in the future. Subscribe for more content, leave a like if you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.